Well, I suppose it goes without saying that the Dallas Cowboys had a very surprising 2014 season, and surprising in a good way. After several years of toiling around 8-8, just being mired in mediocrity and frankly being the epitome of mediocrity, it had this feeling heading into 2014 that was really going to be make or break. And a lot of us, myself most certainly included, thought that the Cowboys were going to break, win 4 or 5 games, be terrible, and that, it was going to be massive upheaval for this Cowboys organization after the 2014 season. Well, that's not the case. That's not what happened. The Cowboys came to life in 2014 and showed that they were a team and organization to be taken seriously once again, going 12-4, winning the NFC East, winning a playoff game, and almost winning another one on the road in Lambeau in January. I mean, this was not the typical Cowboys team that we've grown accustomed to in recent years. They had a lot of success, and a lot of that success was due to a fundamental shift in the offensive philosophy of this team in 2014. There's no question about that, and we'll get to that in a moment. But some of the key reasons for success for this Cowboys team in 2014 and why they were able to do what they did, going 12-4, winning their division, winning a playoff game, almost winning another one. They beat Seattle in Seattle. That's impressive, period. They went 4-0 against the AFC South, so they handled business against the Titans and the Jaguars and the Texans and the Colts. That's a big deal. They went 4-0 in the month of December. So often the major bugaboo, and legitimately so for the Cowboys, and in particular quarterback Tony Romo, was how this team failed to win in December. They failed to put it together. They would often implode. Well, that didn't happen this year. The exact opposite happened. They were dominant in December. I mean, they had a lot of momentum going forward to the point where people were starting to really think that this team could end up representing the NFC in Super Bowl 49. Not only did they go undefeated in the month of December, but they won in dominant fashion, scoring at least 38 points in each of their final 4 contests, all of them taking place in the month of December. I mean, they were incredibly impressive, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And it's where go to the offense where you see the biggest reason for success for the Dallas Cowboys in 2014. It all started there. And it all started up front with that offensive line with 3 former first-round picks, Tyron Smith and Zach Martin, this year's first-rounder, 2013 first-rounder, Travis Frederick at center. That investment in that offensive line paid huge, massive dividends for the Dallas Cowboys, both offensively and defensively and as a team as a whole. They were able to use that offensive line to their advantage, going under a complete and total shift of offensive philosophy, and they pounded that rock with DeMarco Murray. He broke Emmitt Smith's single-season rushing yards record for the Dallas Cowboys. That's saying something. DeMarco Murray, to me, was the NFL's most valuable player in 2014. He definitely had an MVP-type season running behind that great Cowboys run-blocking offensive line. And it also helped out in terms of opening things up for Dez Bryant on the outside. He had, to me, his best statistical season as an NFL player. You also had Tony Romo, who, to me, while the stats were good, it might not look as good as a couple of other years. I think personally that Tony Romo, coming off of that major back injury, had by far his best season as an NFL starting quarterback. And you can make some arguments for him being an MVP type of performer and an MVP type of candidate. And it reflects in the offensive performance. 5th in the league in points scored, 7th in total yards, but most importantly of all, 1st in time of possession. This has been a Cowboys team for years that can move the ball on offense, in particular through the air. But oftentimes they would rely too much on the passing game and fail to establish a physical identity, fail to provide balance to their offense, and more often than not would come up short in big-time situations because of that lack of balance and putting too much pressure on Tony Romo. Well, this year was entirely different. By being 1st in time of possession, they took pressure off of Tony Romo. They established that physical identity. Most importantly of all, they kept an average defense that lacked a great pass rush, that lacked talent, frankly, in the secondary, in particular at the corner position. It kept that defense off the field and limited their opportunities, therefore making them better by association because of what the offense was able to do. This was a great season for the Dallas Cowboys in many ways. I know for a lot of Cowboys fans, it didn't end in the best fashion. Keep in mind, though, even if Dez Bryant does catch that ball and the Cowboys score a touchdown, do you have any guarantee that the Cowboys still would have found a way to win that game? No, you don't. Furthermore, do you have any guarantees that you'd have been able to go the next week and beat Seattle again in Seattle? No, you don't. But it was still a good, productive season for the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones called this shot before the season. He was sending out playoff tickets. We laughed at him. We mocked him. And frankly, we should have. Well, who's laughing now? The Cowboys showed themselves to be a marquee NFL franchise once again. But they're heading into a very, very interesting offseason here. It's like they had this big explosive season that saw huge returns and huge results. And they did the first key step by re-signing Jason Garrett to a long-term contract extension, keeping some continuity in that organization. I don't know if he was worth $6 million a year, but the $6 million a year is what they paid him. But now they have some very critical and important roster decisions to make this offseason. They need to find a way to be able to sign both DeMarco Murray and Dez Bryant back into the fold. I know the Cowboys for years have horribly managed the salary cap situation and put themselves in a bad way, and they seem to do that every single year. But they have to find a way, somehow, some way, to be able to keep both Dez Bryant and DeMarco Murray. I know maybe the priority would be Dez over Murray because you feel it's a little bit easier to find a running back. But you got to be able to find a way to keep both of them in the fold because they were so critical and so key to your success in 2014 and can be for several more years to come. They need to make decisions on guys like Rolando McClain, who had a nice kind of rebound comeback season in 2014. Are you going to stick with Sean Lee at middle linebacker, hoping he can actually stay healthy? Or are you going to overpay Rolando McClain to bring him back into the fold? They have some other team needs, too, that must be addressed either through the draft or free agency. And unfortunately, in this case for the Cowboys, probably is going to have to come solely through the draft because of their current salary cap situation. They need help on that defensive line very badly. All of that investment they put on the offensive line in terms of high-quality draft picks has paid off and paid off tremendously. They now need to redo that on the defensive side of the ball so that way they can win the battle in the trenches on both sides, not just on one. They need help desperately bad at the defensive end positions. They have no real threat of an outside pass rush. Their second-round pick from this year, DeMarcus Lawrence, really didn't do anything at all. Yeah, he missed about half the season due to the injury, but once he came in, what did he really do? How much did he really matter? I think it was Jeremy Mincey led the team with 6 sacks. That's just not good enough. That's your best pass rusher. You're in trouble in a bad way. And you could really see that problem for the Cowboys in the divisional round against the Packers. While they were able to get some pass rush on a hobbled Aaron Rodgers, they weren't able to get nearly the type of pass rush that they needed to be able to impose their will and be able to win that football game and shut down Rodgers and that Green Bay Packers passing attack. They also need help on the interior of that defensive line. They need a real legitimate run stuffer. While they were solid against the run in 2014, they weren't a great run stuffing unit, and they could definitely use an upgrade there. Even more importantly, I think they could use a big-time interior pass rusher. That's something that they're severely lacking. Henry Melton, who they brought in from the Bears in the offseason, really didn't provide that much of a boost there, was a bit of a disappointment, and very well could be gone in this offseason. The Cowboys need to spend multiple picks early in this draft on the defensive line. For all that investment they put in the offensive line, they should see the result and understand that if they can do that with the defense, that will help out in all areas, in all levels, in all capacities. But that's not all they need. They need help at the corner position. That's obviously a glaring weakness. 2012 first-round pick is Morris Claiborne is proven himself to be a bust as far as I'm concerned. But they could also use some help on the offensive line. You look at right tackle, you've got Doug Free. It's not like he's exactly a stud, and he has some trouble staying healthy, and he's owed a lot of money. You might want to sit there and strengthen your strength. I mean, that's your identity now, is that offensive line. Would it be so wrong to spend an early pick on another offensive lineman, knowing the last 3 times you've done that, it's paid off and giving you huge dividends? And, doing it again might give you even more dividends and help your offense even more, and as association, help out your defense even more. It's going to be an interesting season for the Dallas Cowboys. They've got some continuity there by bringing back Jason Garrett. They've got major decisions to make, in particular when it comes to Dez Bryant and DeMarco Murray, and they still have some holes that must be addressed on the defensive side of the ball. This is a Cowboys team that could contend in 2015. There's no question in my mind. But if they allow one or both of DeMarco Murray and Dez Bryant to leave, and they don't address their major deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball, in particular on that defensive line, this is a Cowboys team that can nosedive right back to 8-8 again in 2015. Make no mistake about it.